Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides, Can-Am Missing Project. Thank you for being here. This is the executive producer, Huck L. Berry. She's having a real rough day today. She wanted a day off. She goes, hey, I'm going to demand more days off. You're working me too hard, Dad. I said, yeah, I know. She goes, I want more snacks. I want more kibble. I want more playtime. I need more breaks. I want more social interaction. Yeah. Yeah, you're a good girl. 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 Oh, yeah, you're a good pup. Yeah. You're a good girl. You're a good girl. Yeah, you just stay there and we'll... So, reminder, the Bigfoot and 411 cruise to Alaska leaves in September. Go to Gather Up Events, put your phone right on that top box. You get all the info you need. And there's the poster for the movie that's going to be released March 21st. Missing 411 National Park, Washington State. It is going to be quite a movie. As I have stated several times before, the movie's going to be a lot different than ones in the past. And I think you like it. Oh, and the new hats came in. Missing 411 National Parks. Has the name of the parks over here. Yeah. Go to missing411.com to get your tickets to the premiere. Get your hat, get your poster. Thank you. The comments I've received as of late on the videos, very interesting. General McCaslin, quite a story. Outside of Albuquerque. Quite a story. And if you have an X account, I'm at Can-Am Missing on X. And yes, I've posted a lot about General McCaslin. And in fact, his wife posted a recent statement about him. And he doesn't have Alzheimer's. He was in a good mood. Yeah, it's a big mystery. The story today is one that came in from one of you. So I thank you very much. Because otherwise, I definitely would have never heard about it. We have people all over the world watching this channel. And I greatly appreciate all of you sending me in the stories that I can keep up with. Because otherwise, the regional stories of disappearances don't make the national news. And in fact, stories from other countries usually don't make it. I have a big following in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Scotland, Spain, and across Europe. Denmark, Netherlands, and Sweden. This case is a Swedish case. And it is, after a while, it's almost as though I could write the story about what's going to happen. That's how similar these are. So this one, the man's name was Mattias Bog, 17 years old, missing December 5th, 2020. In a town called Ljungby, Sweden. Kind of north of Copenhagen, in the southern part of Sweden. City is not huge at 28,000 people, but it has a big diverse population of immigrants, 24%. The main industry in this little city is the building of equipment for ports, logistics, commercial kitchens, etc. And the Lagan River flows through the middle of town. This is a tough story, real tough story. Mattias lived in the family home with his twin brother, identical twin, Dennis. And his mom, Erica, was a teacher. The father had left the home when the boys were about 8 years old, and he lived in Thailand. Mattias did good in school, ran track and field as a sport, was fast, was a good athlete. Mattias was described by various people as a very caring person, someone who never raised his voice. Mattias never raised his voice. In general, very upbeat, stayed calm. Generally, everybody liked Mattias. Now, on December 4th at about 4 o'clock, Erica came home from her teaching job, and she said she was met with a very upbeat Mattias. He was in his final year of what we'd know here in the States as high school, and he was looking to go to college in another country, study abroad. A lot of people like to do that in Europe and other countries. We don't do it too much in the States. But he was looking, and the prices got pretty high. And Erica, being a single mom, didn't quite have the income. So Mattias had to find a workaround to this. And while she was teaching that day, and after he'd come home from school, he'd been working on it his own. This is what I like to see. I like to see kids figuring out solutions to problems on their own. Well, he wanted to go to France. And when she came home, he said he'd figured out a way, a workaround, how to pay for the French education to make it possible. And Erica said he was really happy. She listened to it. Apparently it sounded feasible. Now that night, Dennis, his brother, and Mattias and a group of friends were meeting at a friend's home for a get-together, like a party. And Dennis and Mattias, like in a lot of relationships, there was some talk that theirs was a little rough at times, but they were still close because they were twins. So they went to the party, and very early the next morning, like about 30 minutes after midnight on December 5th, Mattias told one friend that he was leaving the party to look for a girl. It was kind of a generalized statement, and people weren't sure if it was a girl that had left the party or a girl that was supposedly in the neighborhood. It was kind of unclear. It was 37 degrees outside. There was still some snow on the ground. And he walked out the door of the party, leaving behind his shoes, his coat, his keys, and his cell phone. Let's stop here for a second. How many 17-year-olds do you know that would walk around without their cell phone? That's odd. Even if you knew the girl was right outside the party that was inside, would you leave your phone inside and walk out? I think most kids would probably take their phone. I think that's odd behavior. Then they said he left his coat and keys behind, with the implication maybe being the keys were in his coat. 37 degrees is cold if, say, you live in Florida. But if you're going to go outside for a short period of time, maybe you'd go out without your shoes and coat if you're looking for a girl. Now, I can only speak for myself. 37, 40 degrees, no wind. Yeah, I'd probably walk outside without my coat with Huck if she had to go to the bathroom. That's just me. I think if you live in an environment long enough, you kind of get acclimated to the temperature. So to me, when Mattias went outside and said this The implication was he probably wasn't going to be out there very long, especially without shoes. Well, he walked out the door, and he didn't come back. And he didn't show up at home when Dennis arrived later. Friends later said that Mattias seemed completely normal, wasn't upset. Nothing seemed odd. Well, when Dennis got home, he told his mom what happened with Mattias, and they went out looking for him. And they couldn't locate him. Now here's the city. And the first party they went to was off of this street right here. I'll let you say it for yourself. But this is the name of the city they were in. And they were on a party on this street right here. The green is like forest area. The green is forest area around the city. The blue is the river that runs through the middle of the city. Got it? I'll come back to this map again in a little bit. So, Erica and his brother are out looking for him. They went over to the area near the party. Party was just about shut down by them. Streets were very quiet. They walked up and down the streets, drove up and down the streets. As time went on, Erica started to get really nervous. This isn't behavior that had happened to either of the boys before. At about 1:30 a.m., now this is the research that the police did, was the last absolutely confirmed sighting of Mattias when he was seen running full speed down a street in a residential area. A car alarm went off on this street. Not sure, maybe he touched the car, leaned up against the car, but it went off. And the dad and the daughter went outside, and the girl recognized Mattias from school. And he ran off at full speed down the street again. But the girl recognized him, and the girl ID'd him. That was at 1:30. Later on, the police went back and they knocked on doors on these streets, trying to find out if anybody had seen Mattias. Well, at 1:54, they found a CCTV camera, and in that general area, they caught an image that they thought was he, but they couldn't be positive, but they thought it was him. And then strangely, between 2 and 3 a.m., Mattias knocked on the door of another home and asked for a glass of water. The residents said they didn't feel right about it and closed the door. Now, apparently the police didn't show these people a picture of Mattias, and he couldn't be positively ID'd. But I'm guessing a quiet residential area here, not too many people are knocking on doors at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And they weren't positive about the time because it was a week later when police started to knock on these doors that they figured out something was going on. Now, it was still early on December 5th that Erica and Dennis came back to their home. And remember, Dennis had Mattias' phone that he left at the party. They called a few friends, see if they had seen him. They hadn't. They had driven every street they knew about, couldn't find him. Mom was thinking something nefarious had happened. The police responded to their home, took a report. Mom gave him a picture of Mattias that looked, I've seen both pictures of Mattias and Dennis, they look identical. So the police, early in that morning, they're calling up units to search that area again. And then they called out for a search and rescue later in that same morning. Later on, a couple days later, a group they just called themselves Missing People, a volunteer group, jumped into the effort to also look for Mattias. The police brought in helicopters from other cities, drones, canine units from other cities, ground pounders, a maritime search boat from Copenhagen so they can put it on the river. Canines searched the area, and 2 of them came back to the same spot at the riverbank, which raised the suspicion to the police that Mattias was in the river. They then called for specialized divers from Copenhagen, and they responded, along with a maritime search boat. The specialized maritime search boat had special search equipment on it that they didn't have in that area. And they thought if they put it on that river, and Mattias was there, that they'd be able to find him. Well, the divers searched for weeks. They didn't find him. The search boat searched for weeks and didn't find him. There was talk by the police that the area of the river had a lot of snags and things in it, fallen trees, branches, and they said it made it very difficult to search. Police canvassed the neighborhood and they came up with those CCTV photo that I told you about. And from what they said, it appeared as though he was heading towards a wooded section. And they went out and they searched that area thoroughly. Came up with nothing. The search progressed. Remember, this happened December 5th. Now, at about Christmas time, so about 20 days later, the search is still going on. Some private searchers were on a gravel road, and the mom said that this was deep in the forest, and found something very strange. That's what they found. This is a man's sock. Dark, almost black looking man's sock. When Erica looked at it, she said, I think that's Mattias' sock. And she asked the police to test it for DNA to see if it was his. Now remember something. The police had already said that their dogs so he was last seen on this street right here. Their dogs had come back and said that on this riverbank right here, the dogs came back and said that that's where they lost the scent. Now, going into the woods, they find this sock. Well, that doesn't exactly fit the profile that they want to pursue. They think he's in the river. Going towards the woods isn't part of the theory that they're trying to propagate. You know what I mean? So they get a little snooty with Erica, and they say, no, we're not going to test that sock for DNA to see if it was Mattias. So Erica, being a smart mom, she does some research, and she contacted DNA experts at Uppsala University. Explained the situation, single mom, no money, and asked them if they would agree to test it, the sock, for DNA. Well, Dennis and Mattias have essentially the same DNA, so Dennis gives them his DNA. After a short period of time, the university comes back and says, well, we can tell you that that is either Dennis's or Mattias' sock, because that's what the DNA comes back to. Well, isn't that strange? It's on a gravel road going into the woods. The police say 2 canines travel shows the last scent next to the bank of the river. How did that sock get there 20 days after he disappeared? Well, there's a couple private drone operators in their city. And they continued to fly the river and the woods for weeks. One day, one of the drone operators sees something very odd floating in the water. He calls the police, shows them what he sees. They both really can't determine what it is, so the police call out the divers and they go in looking to try to find it. Make a very long story short, it wasn't Mattias and it wasn't a body. But in the meantime, friends of the family members, and private search groups continued to search for Mattias over a year. There's been no reports anywhere that people have seen him, and nothing additional has been found relating to him, which is very frustrating. Now, one of the things that Erica told the police when they described his behavior in the neighborhood, with him running away from people, is that it reminded her of someone who was hunted or being chased. Okay, that's an interesting perspective, and one we should pay attention to. Well, the city that they lived in had a couple of private people who liked to dive, had scuba gear. These two men knew that the police still thought that Mattias was in the river. So what they decide is they're going to commit every weekend they can for almost a year looking for Mattias in that river. The two did 70 to 80 hours of diving in the river in various spots. Henrik Sundquist and Tobias Norgren worked the area on their days off, and they said that they were trying to bring closure to Erica and Dennis. Friends, this is one of the biggest commitments I've ever seen by somebody to do something like dive on a cold water river looking for somebody. A huge commitment and dangerous. Remember, the police driver said that there was a lot of branches and obstacles in the river that made it difficult. So these guys didn't have an easy time of it. Some rivers you go in and there's no obstacles or nothing between the surface and the bottom. It makes it easy. And then an anonymous person comes forward saying that they knew where Mattias was, and for $25,000 he would tell the family. After a while, the person came down to $15,000. Eventually, the person said Mattias, was on a farm on the other side of the river. Well, that was enough to make police get very interested. They never said that they found the guy who was giving them this information, but they knew that river, and there was one specific farm on that side of the river that they knew about. And they went there, and they got permission, and they searched that whole farm. And no, Mattias wasn't working there. He wasn't alive, and they didn't find a body. But as I've told you many times, when disaster strikes a family, every creep and cretin in the world wants to come out and say that they're going to help, and for so-and-so amount of money, they'll tell you. This actually happened to Alan Audadero when he lost Jared. And it really hurt him to see somebody do that to him. Erica later said that the loss of Mattias has been very tough on Dennis. 5 years after the disappearance, the news is still in the Swedish press. And in 2025, Erica came out and talked about the case and said, there's really been nothing new. People have continued to go out and search. Divers have still gone in the water. We have no idea where my son is at. Now, let's talk about this clearly. And this isn't meant to hurt anybody at all. But if you don't talk through the theories, then somewhere along the line there's going to be a misstep. Theory number one, at that party there was drug use. Dennis knows if there was drug use. The people at the party who were interviewed by police know if there was drug use. I don't know if they told the police that there was or there wasn't. But if there was, then possibly Mattias took some drugs that didn't sit well with him, and he went into some kind of psychosis. It doesn't explain why he went in the river. Now, unusually, yeah, this is unusual. On December 9th, 4 days after the disappearance, the police opened a kidnapping investigation. Was it because Erica said she thought he might be hunted? I don't know. Was it because there was absolutely no clues to where he went? I don't know. The police still consider this a missing person and not a crime. Theory 2. Could he have been picked up by a car? Possibly, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 to 3 was last time he was seen. Not a lot of cars driving around that city. After that last sighting, he never contacted anyone, and he had never approached anybody saying he was afraid or needed help. Are the kids at that party afraid to tell the police what might have happened? Oh, I read some doozy of these theories. The worst one was people at the party didn't like Mattias, kicked him out. Dennis covered for him, and because he and Dennis had a rough relationship, somebody at the party did something bad to him, and Dennis just knew about it and never said anything. I think that's completely bunk, but it's out there. The theory's out there. One of the biggest questions I have, if Mattias was walking around out in the woods along this gravel road, why would he take off one sock? 37 degrees outside. There's some snow out there still. Why just one sock? Did he get in a fight with somebody and that one sock came off and then they took him and threw him in a car? Possible. I don't understand the one sock though. Maybe if you understand it, put it in the comments in the video. If he's in the river, as the police adamantly imply by multiple dogs saying the same spot in the river they tracked him to, and I got a simple question. Why don't they put some cadaver dogs on that maritime boat and slowly drive the river where the dogs pick up the scent of a cadaver in the river? See, cadavers give out minute bubbles. And when you go slow on a river with a cadaver dog, it will indicate when it smells those bubbles. I haven't read anywhere that they've done that. Seems like a simple thing. It would appear he didn't plan to leave that party permanently when he did. Just my hunch based on the evidence he left behind. if that story he told the one person that he was going to go outside to find a girl, that makes a minute amount of sense. But then what caused him to leave the party permanently? He left his coat and keys behind. Fact. Well, if he was going to leave the party permanently and he lived at home, how was he going to get in his house without the keys? Just a question. He wasn't with his brother. And I go back to, how many 17-year-olds anywhere in the world go anywhere without their phone? This is the second case of a missing person in a short amount of days where a phone was left behind. General McCaslin was another one. As I've stated in other videos, people leave a phone behind, in McCaslin's case, for only a few reasons. They're going to take their own lives, or they don't want to be found. In either case, they don't want to be found. I don't believe Mattias was suicidal. There's no evidence of that. So when he walked out the door looking for that girl at the party, what caused him to leave that entire area and run down a road full speed? I don't understand. Doesn't make any sense. But we've had this happen before. If you were getting chased by somebody, would you run in the woods? If it was me, I'd run up to somebody's front door, knock on the door and say, I need help. But he didn't do that. I'd run into a public area where there was a gas station or something and tell him I need help. He didn't do that. In fact, he never told anybody he needed help. Mattias' case is fascinating and sad. Left behind a brother and a mom that loved him immensely. Definitely a 411 case. Water's right there. The implication is it's water. But his body never surfaced. And it should have. Friends, I appreciate you being here. Remember to be kind. Now, when Mattias knocks on somebody's door at 2 or 3 in the morning and asks for a drink of water, I would find that suspicious. I probably wouldn't even open the door. So I don't think that's not being kind. You gotta take care of your own self first. Somebody comes to your house like that at 2 or 3 in the morning, you call the police. Police want to know about people running around your neighborhood at that time. And that's what the police are for. But kindness, smile, be nice. You are appreciated 1,000%. Keep sending those cases to me no matter where you're at. I want to know. Paulides out.